Welcome to Threatsafe. This is our podcast to help SMEs and SMBs and the people who manage IT within those businesses or responsible for IT to get the very best from the technology that they deploy and then also to manage their cyber security. Let's listen to this week's podcast. Hello everybody, welcome to our first podcast, our video cast of 2025. The great news is, Toby, is that I won't get my checks writing wrong as I normally do at this time of the year, as I have done for the past 40 years, because I don't write checks anymore.
No, that's right.
Yeah. So, welcome, Toby.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I'm Martin Roberts, Managing Director of Neuways.
And I'm Toby Stevenson, Chief Technology Officer at Neuways.
Okay, so we've had a good break, and I guess one of the things that we talked about in our prior podcast, this is number 19, of Threatsafe, is what to do before the holidays, and it's a great opportunity actually, the holidays, for the bad guys to get fairly free rein without being discovered in certain circumstances.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we know that bad guys like to operate when the good guys don't.
Absolutely.
And they will, and it's been proven that they take advantage of those periods of time when people are not in the office or there are fewer staff around to spot or work on problems. So yeah, holidays are a key time for attackers to strike.
Now, the thing is, sometimes we've talked about this, what this podcast is about. It's for people who are in charge of IT but not necessarily executing it. The CFOs, the FDs, the people who are responsible and in charge in theory, but don't actually get their hand on a keyboard to fix things or protect things. The truth is also about this. It's about businesses and business IT, and sometimes we talk to you about individual activities and actions that you can do, but obviously protecting a business is a different ball game entirely. So thinking about if you're a user and you see something suspicious, you can do something about it. Your PC might be attacked while you're not there, but as an individual thing, it's not necessarily as important as protecting a business 24/7. And of course, if you're using an MSP or an IT department, you're not there, or they're not there 24/7 typically. So you have to invest in an additional service.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we know that the attackers want to try and strike when they're less likely to be disturbed or stopped. A bit like a burglar, they will wait to see there's no cars on the drive and that maybe the lights are off, and they'll prefer to do that and come in at 3 o'clock in the morning when everything's quiet, or when they can see clearly there's nobody there, versus coming in on a Saturday afternoon when people might be home and around and doing things. And it's very similar in the cybersecurity world. The attackers want to try and do their work when you and your defenders are not there. It becomes really difficult if you are a 9-to-5 business. You tend to operate 9 to 5, and so we know that the bad guys want to try and work outside of those hours. And historically, it's always been very difficult to provide that cover because you just need more people, and that's been really, really expensive.
It is, absolutely. And I guess part of the problem is that it's one thing to act on something when you can see it happening. It's another thing entirely to recover from something if it's happened, or to spot those signs. So how do we deal with that? How as a business, what services can a business invest in or take up to mitigate that risk?
Yeah, and there's a lot of things, and the great thing about technology is that as it distills down from enterprise to SMB level, the price comes down as well. So trying to do this 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago would have been prohibitively expensive, to the point where it wasn't possible to do it, except for companies with very, very deep pockets, which is why your Barclays and those types of places do it all. But Joe's Tires or Sarah's Bakery don't do these things. And so fast forward to today, and it is more accessible. What are we interested in? What do we need to be looking at? Well, the bad guys are primarily interested in either getting into your system or getting into your data.
Yeah.
So we need to take a look at the things that we're exposing. So invariably, all of those things have a login, and that's one area that we need to be watching. We need to be watching the logins.
Yeah.
And so there are services that you can acquire at a relatively low cost that will be monitoring for those identities being used. So they'll be looking at your 365 logins. They can be looking at VPN logins, those kinds of things. So the credentials that are entered to get into your data and into your systems, and monitoring for unexpected behavior. So we don't want to be told when someone is logging in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday, but we might want to know that someone's logging in at 3 o'clock on a Saturday morning, because that would be unusual. We might want to know that someone's logging in from another country or another location. We don't care if it's from the office particularly, or if it's from the 20, 30, 40-mile radius of the office, because that possibly means that it's a legitimate login. But what we're interested for is things that don't look right, things that look unusual. And this is all data that is being captured by things like M365. They just don't make it very easy to do anything with it unless you're specifically looking for it. Now, you can have someone sat there looking at the logs over and over and over and over, but that's going to be, it's expensive because you need to do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because chances are it's going to be in the small hours sometime when someone's going to try something. But it's also very manual and error prone. People get bored of looking at things, and they will not see the wood for the trees if they're not careful. And so automated systems that can do this are really, really useful. But alerting is one thing. So we can get alerts. Let's say a bad guy from Russia or North Korea or China or somewhere like that is trying to get into my environment. Let's say they do get into my environment. Let's say they manage to phish the credentials from one of my users, and they manage to log in at 2 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I can get an alert about that, but unless I'm able to receive the alert and see that it's happened, I'm not going to know until Monday morning at 9 o'clock, in which case the point of that fast alert is negated. So again, what you need is some kind of ability to get that alert in front of someone that can do something about it, make a decision what needs to be done, or take some kind of action automatically. So I'm a big proponent of containment first. So we want to make sure we'll try and make an environment safe.
So in that situation, if we can see some attempts at logging in, or an attempt at logging in from an unexpected place, and it's an unexpected time, we can actually have an instruction to remove that endpoint. There's a raft of different things, and depending on the technology that you use, we can either suspend the account so that it can't be logged onto anymore. So if someone is hammering away at trying to break into that account, you can say, well, okay, we'll suspend that account for now to make it safe until we've got more people that can look at it. We can speak to the person whose account it is, find out what's going on. Maybe it's them. Yes.
Maybe they've got a problem on their computer and they don't realise it. Perhaps they've got the cat sitting on the enter key and it's trying to log in over and over again. There's a whole raft of legitimate reasons why it could be happening, but we want to try and make it safe. So we could disable the account. That would then stop anyone being able to log on to it because it's disabled. If we felt that it was something to do with the computer, we could potentially isolate the computer. If we've got the right software on the computer, we can disconnect that computer from the network. So if we suspected that a machine has been compromised, we can isolate it, we can contain it, we can make it safe until we can then look at the detail and make an informed judgment. And
in reality, that's a level of service that you can buy. Which is relatively cost effective as opposed to having somebody sitting there as a server, real people doing that, and then that could be dealt with at another time, either by your MSP, by your IT department.
So
the first sort of
absolutely, and I think one of the key things around these things is that there are services out there that are completely automated.
Yes.
So they are operating in a very binary fashion. If it does this, behave like this, otherwise ignore it.
We get into the world then of false positives.
We do, and these binary rules can't apply context. They don't understand nuance. A person does. So actually, the right service that you should be looking for is one that maybe uses some of this to cut out a lot of the noise, but then it then gets fed to a person to look at. And because these services, you're effectively having a time slice of a person, they're not being much cheaper than trying to staff it yourself. So, and we would, refer to that as a security operations center. So there would be a SOC analyst there that would be looking at these alerts and saying, yes, this looks like someone leaning on the keyboard, will ignore it. Or this looks like it's something that's really bad. And their response may be different depending on what they think the problem is. If they think it's someone leaning on a keyboard, they might just tell you, send an alert out. And if you get back to us today, great. If it has to be tomorrow or Monday, whatever, that's fine.
So a joke came to my head then. But it's gone too far now. We talked about SOC analyst. It was me on Christmas Day. All my gifts this year were socks.
I see you're analysing your socks.
That's fine. Anyway, sorry about that. You can always cut that out. We actually do the edit. That's good. Okay, so this whole service, it can be bought. It can be bought. I think it's worthwhile people understanding this, because sometimes when we talk about these services and such, like some people may dismiss it out of hand simply because they think it sounds expensive. And we just talked about really a couple of levels there. One is a fully automated system. We'll talk about false positives in the few seconds again. And then you've got the access to this security operations center where you actually it gets escalated to a person who will then, on your behalf, go, yeah, it is a problem, or no, it isn't. Well, we'll ignore. We'll alert the client to this, but we won't act on it. We won't get somebody out of bed. Or we won't close down that server, which may be doing things for other people around the clock, even though you're not attending it.
Exactly. And that's the power of having this human element in the response, because they can make that nuanced decision. Whereas a rule will just be binary, yes, no, yes, no.
Okay. So let's talk about false positives for a few moments, because it's one of those concepts which is not quite easy to grasp once you understand it. But a false positive is...
So false positive, it's very basic, is something that looks bad but isn't. So it's triggered as bad, but it turns out to not be.
And you need a word of you need false positives, because it reinforces what's positive later on. You can recognize that, oh, this looks like this, that's a positive, or this looks like this, or that looks like positive, it turns out later on it isn't. And you educate.
So we get a false positive, we get a true positive. We do have shades of grey in there,
of course,
because we do have something that is a positive detection, so that the rule and the detection is correct, but it's not a malicious activity. So we call those benign alert. So they are or a benign event, and essentially they are something that has triggered correctly, but it's not a bad thing.
Okay, let's give an example of that.
So an example might be somebody logging in at 3 o'clock in the morning. That might get flagged as a positive alert. Someone goes to take a look and say, the alert triggered correctly.
It is actually Martin, because he got bored of counting socks and just sort of get on the computer.
It's not list them on eBay or something like that.
That seems quite reasonable.
So it's a correct detection. It's just not a malicious act.
Okay.
And it's important to count those, because we want to test the efficacy of the mechanism.
And the truth is, when I have been on holiday or I've been working abroad, there's been calls at 3 a.m. in the morning, because I've been on the other side of the world, and suddenly Martin Roberts appears to be logging in from somewhere which is not unusual for him.
Exactly.
Of course, by the way, with these services, we can alert beforehand that Martin Roberts is going to be over there at that point.
Absolutely. So ignoring any other mechanisms you may have in place that control who can log on from where, these alerting solutions or these detection and responding solutions, most of them will give you some ability to create per user rules. So as you say, somebody's going on holiday. The big challenge is most of the time people don't tell you that they're going on holiday, and then you get an alert from Turkey or Spain or Italy, and is this legit or not? And that would be an example of perhaps a benign alert. It's a correct triggering of the alert. It's just that it's not a real problem. And
actually taking that step further, of course, if somebody doesn't log in from another location, it may well be that in the first instance we talked about earlier on, where we'll just cut them off. we could find somebody suddenly sitting in Istanbul wanting to do some very important work, and they can't because they've been cut off the system for what appears to be quite legitimate reasons, and they can't log in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they can't email anybody to tell
absolutely.
them.
Yeah, and it is a tricky one. And again, the in all of these things, a judgment needs to be made.
Yeah.
Normally, it's to err on the side of caution,
Yeah.
and ask for forgiveness, not permission. Is,
Yeah.
is normally the ethic here.
Yeah.
We want to keep everything safe. So if we're in any doubt,
Yeah.
we'll block it out.
Yeah.
Because somebody will know that that individual has gone to Turkey, and that they're likely, that is likely to be them, and they can maybe have side channel communication, ring them on the phone, something like that.
Okay, I guess we could go into the intricacies of the whole service in more depth, but there's different vendors.
Yeah.
There's different, your MSP can put you in touch or can provide this service and manage that, and of course within hours they can also manage that for you, your IT department, etc. I guess one of the things, it's difficult, folks. It's January 2025, so today if I was looking for a service, firstly, what size of business do I want to be, minimum?
Oh, that should be looking for this.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I think anyone that uses M365 should have monitoring solutions attached to it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's normally priced per user, so if you're in a small business, you're not going to pay very much.
Yeah.
But it's such a massive attack vector for people these days. And then we've spoken on previous ones about some of the ways that MFA gets bypassed, so that multi-factor authentication gets bypassed by some of the more advanced phishing mechanisms. These tools are able to spot this. So I'll give you a great example. So we at Neuways, full disclosure, we have a service that ticks these boxes here. Yeah. And we had a customer that was subscribed to this service, and we had an alert from the service itself saying, slightly technical, and I apologize, I'll explain it, but it was a potential session hijack.
Right.
So essentially, when you log into 365, username, password, MFA, you get something back from Microsoft called a session token. And that's basically like your theme park entrance ticket. Anyone's got that ticket can get in.
Yeah.
So attackers have found a way of being able to steal that as it's been sent back to you.
No, right, okay. Brilliant.
Once they've then got that, they can then get in.
Yeah.
However, when that happens, it leaves telltale signs.
Okay.
And so this particular alert said suspected session hijack, legitimate login was Windows PC, Chrome browser in the UK, hijack session, Mac OS, Chrome browser, USA.
Yeah.
2 minutes apart.
Yeah.
It's physically impossible to do that, and it's a different machine.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's impossible travel stuff, where you log on from the UK, and then 2 minutes later you're seen in the US or in France or in Germany or something like that. That can be explained out with VPNs and things like that. If you are working for an organisation who's got a head office in Frankfurt, and you turn your computer on, you'll first log in to your machine and you'll be in the UK. Then when you connect to the VPN to get to corporate systems in Germany, you'll then look as though you're in Germany, and that can then trigger an impossible travel. So that would be an example of a benign alert. But always the underlying data will show that it's the same computer.
Yeah.
Now, in a session hijack, it's a different computer, so there is no legitimate reason why a session token is being switched between computers. That should never happen.
Yeah.
And so it's a really great marker.
Okay.
And one of a really good analogy, actually, for the way that some of these tools are designed to work is think of them as tripwires around your house.
Yeah.
They are there to make noise when bad things happen. They're not there to stop it, but they are there to give you that preventative alert. So, again, thinking back to the holiday period, Home Alone, great Christmas film. Think of it as the micro machines in the hallway. Micro machines in the hallway, or the icy steps down to the basement. Yeah. All of those. These are all things that are designed to make a noise so that you know that something's going on. It's really, really powerful. It's really, really powerful.
So what happened?
So,
without giving too much away.
So, essentially, the initial session was 2 minutes before the hijack.
Yeah.
We got an alert within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
As part of that action, it had been seen by a person,
Good.
and that person had signed the user out of 365. So the process of that, again, without getting too technical, resets the session token.
Yeah.
So you have to authenticate again and get a new session token. So the session token then becomes invalid.
Yeah.
And suspended the account because it could have been some other compromise.
Absolutely.
Or something like that. So the account was the account that would have the token replayed was suspended, and all their sessions were signed out from 365. So this it basically invalidating the session token.
So actually, paying for that service at that point in time was great investment, because had it not been seen, not been discovered, and had not gone under somebody's eye line to say, this, we need to suspend this, that person could have run amok with those.
Absolutely, and almost certainly would have done, because in those few minutes that this bad actor had access to the environment, they'd set up they tried to set up persistence, so they'd set up an alternative MFA method, so they could try and get back in after the event. So and that's interesting, that short time window. So and without these types of solutions, the first time that you know that someone's in your mailbox and doing bad things is when that payment gets sent to a bank account, or the shipment doesn't arrive somewhere. So really powerful.
Okay, so I've mentioned January 2025 because when this podcast is being done. Today, if I was a small business owner and I wanted to subscribe to that service, what would be my starting price per user?
You should be able to get service for £5 per user per month.
So £5 per user.
That'd be your starting price for a. You can pay more and have more sophisticated things, but to kind of get something that would stand you in good stead, that's what we're looking at. It's not a huge number.
No, I guess it's an insurance. It's a preventative thing, because if somebody does get in and they do misdirect your payments, they do set up folders, they do, and start. We talked about what happens in hacks and things like that before, and the cost of the business, both in terms of time, but in terms of reputation, in terms of actually £5 per user per month. It's annoying. It's infuriating that you should have to consider spending that money on such a service, because it's not what IT is all about. But as a cost for protection, actually, it's very, very cheap.
Yeah. When you think that if a missed payment here or a redirected shipment here could be tens of thousands of pounds more.
And again, we've talked about this before. If you were paying for this service and your insurer knew about it, it would reduce your premiums.
Absolutely, I'm sure of that. I'm sure of it, because it's such a massive thing that insurers have to pay out on. If you can demonstrate that you're taking steps to protect yourself in this way, massive.
And actually, we've worked with one client in the past few years where we brought down their insurance. We've contributed to them bringing down their insurance premiums significantly. Because they've invested in technology, in services from our advice, which is actually, so the insurers can go, we can actually do the premium this year at this, and it's more than actually, it's been better, so the saving has been greater than the cost of the services we've bought. They've
had a great return on investment on that.
Okay, right. So there you are, January 25, £5 or about to start off with, folks. Worthwhile investing in. Speak to your MSP. Speak to your IT department, because it does give you this round the clock protection.
The thing is, 365 is exposed to the internet all day, every day. And a service like this just helps you have peace of mind that if someone that shouldn't be in your environment is in your environment, you stand a much better chance of spotting them and getting rid of them before they do something really bad.
Okay. Toby, thank you very much. Great start to the year. Far more, a lot more coming, I've no doubt. But a great subject to cover. Go and look at it, folks. It's worthwhile. It's worth the money. Meanwhile, we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Threatsafe. We hope you found it enjoyable and informative. Please reach out with any comments, feedback, questions, and we look forward to seeing you soon.